The scene opens with a group of divers emerging from the water. Moments later, they're seen silently making their way through a house, taking down guards with lethal precision. Upstairs, a man named Javier is in the bathroom freshening up when he hears the commotion. Realizing the danger, he quickly grabs his daughter, Eve, who's playing in her room, and hides her behind a hidden shelf door. As the assault intensifies, Javier is eventually cornered. He's handed a gun with a single bullet and given an impossible choice: kill their leader and risk both his and his daughter's lives, or turn the gun on himself and her daughter lives. Welcome to Sandy's Timeline. Today, we're diving into the 2025 action thriller Ballerina. Let's get into it. And don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns like this. But before he can pull the trigger, his daughter Eve cries out, drawing the attacker's attention. Fueled by desperation, Javier fights back, taking down the gunmen one by one. As he leads Eve to safety, his gunshot wounds begin to take their toll. Just outside, he collapses, dying in the act of protecting his daughter. Now orphaned, Eve is later seen sitting alone in a police station. That's when Winston Scott, the manager of the New York Continental, appears. He offers her something she no longer has: a home, a purpose, a new family. Eve is brought before the director, the head of an organization known as Ruska Roma. There, she meets with a recruiter who explains the purpose of the Ruska Roma. They train young girls to become kikimora, figures inspired by Slavic mythology. A kikimora can be either a force for good or a force of destruction, depending on how the world treats them. 12 years later, Eve is still fueled by the pain of her father's death. She's been relentlessly training as a ballerina, dancing until her legs bleed, refusing to quit. Alongside her ballet training, she's also being shaped into an elite assassin and bodyguard, mastering the art of using anything and everything to her advantage. She quickly rises to the top of her class. Despite the harsh environment, Eve forms a close bond with a fellow trainee named Tatiana. But when Tatiana is disqualified for lacking the drive to continue, Eve grows frustrated with the director's strict control. Determined to prove herself, she demands to be moved to the next level. To complete her training, Eve is ordered to kill a former Ruska Roma member. With no hesitation, she carries out the mission, and in doing so, earns the respected title of Kikimora. Eve briefly meets John Wick during his visit with the director, and he implores Eve to abandon her violent path. Believing she's finally ready, Eve is assigned her first official mission: to protect Katla Park, the daughter of a powerful businessman targeted by ruthless competitors. Armed only with a gun loaded with rubber bullets, Eve must rely on her training, instincts, and quick thinking. Through sheer resourcefulness and precision, she outmaneuvers the attackers and ensures Katla's safety, proving she's more than just a weapon, she's a protector. Fast forward 2 months, Eve is deployed on another mission, but just as she's leaving, her car is rammed by unknown assailants. She quickly springs into action, fighting them off with lethal efficiency. In the chaos, she kills one of the men, only to discover a mark on his body. It's the same mark worn by the men who murdered her father. Fueled by revenge, Eve severs the man's hand, preserving the marked symbol, and brings it to the director. Upon seeing it, the director reveals the truth. The mark belongs to an ancient cult, long shrouded in secrecy and bloodshed. But despite the revelation, Eve is forbidden from pursuing them. The Ruska Roma has maintained a fragile truce with the cult for generations, one that cannot be broken without igniting a war. Eve disobeys the director's orders and travels to the New York Continental, seeking out Winston. There, he reveals that a cultist named Daniel Pine is hiding out at the Prague Continental, and a large bounty has been placed on his head. Determined, Eve travels to Prague and infiltrates Pine's hotel room. She quickly learns he's not just hiding, he's protecting someone, his daughter, Ella, from the cult. Meanwhile, cult member Lena raises the bounty on Pine, drawing multiple assassins to the hotel. Under siege, Pine entrusts Ella to Eve, promising to reveal more about the cult if they make it out alive. As they attempt to flee, cultist Dex fatally shoots Pine, while Lena incapacitates Eve and kidnaps Ella. Though the Continental's rules were nearly broken, the staff execute 2 captured assassins and spare Eve, finding she did not violate the code. Desperate for weapons, Eve turns to arms dealer Frank, but the cult tracks her down and attacks his shop. After fending off the attackers, Frank helps her trace the cult's location to Hallstatt, Austria. Upon arrival, Eve is ambushed by townspeople, revealed to be cult members, and eventually captured. She is brought before the Chancellor, who reveals shocking truths. The cult is a sanctuary for former assassins. Pine was his son, Ella is his granddaughter. While imprisoned, Eve is confronted by Lena, who reveals another twist. She is Eve's long-lost older sister. Lena claims that during their childhood escape, Javier abandoned her, believing she had already been turned by the cult. The Chancellor orders their execution, but in the chaos, Lena is killed and Eve escapes. In retaliation, the Chancellor contacts the director of the Ruska Roma, declaring war. To prevent an all-out conflict, the director disavows Eve and hires none other than John Wick to eliminate her. John arrives in Hallstatt and quickly defeats Eve, but instead of finishing the job, he gives her a choice. Moved by her plea for vengeance, John grants her until midnight to complete her mission. What follows is a brutal assault on the cult. With John secretly assisting from the shadows, taking out Dex and several cultists, Eve cuts through the defenses and corners the Chancellor as he tries to escape with Ella. He attempts to justify his actions, but Eve doesn't hesitate. She executes him and rescues Ella. John later informs the director of the Chancellor's death. She accepts the outcome. Ella is reunited with a recovering Daniel Pine at the Prague Continental, while Eve, having left the Ruska Roma behind, seeks refuge at the New York Continental. Winston warns her the cult may be fractured, but its surviving members will come for her. Later, while attending a ballet performance by her old friend Tatiana, Eve receives news of a $5 million bounty placed on her head. As the music plays and shadows gather, she slips out of the theater, once again a hunted assassin. With a bounty on her head and enemies closing in, her fight is just beginning. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe to Sandy's Timeline, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think will come after Eve next? Until next time, stay sharp, stay hidden.